Thank you for staying with us, everyone. We appreciate it. This is Big Talk here on Global Television. We're live in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. My name is AGBOMOFUEGBE. This is a continuation of our special coverage of the Israel-Palestine conflict. Of course, some people will say it is now a full-fledged war. Again, that is not far-fetched, given the rhetorics that we've heard, particularly from the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, in the last couple of days. It is day 4 in this very nasty event, or if you like, series of events that we've come to see in that region between these two countries. This is one war that has taken thousands of lives over time, maybe even hundreds of thousands, of course, has displaced millions of people on both sides. Recall that barely 3 weeks ago, we had seen the president of the state of Palestine, MAMUD Abbas, also again reiterating the call that he had made over time about how that this issue must be resolved once and for all. One of the things he highlighted is that Israel continues to encroach, and on top of all that, Israel continues to, in embracing, if you like, flouting of international laws, continues to, in his words, illegally occupy the Gaza. And then he says one way the solution, a lasting solution or peace can be found is to ensure that the United Nations Security Council steps in and helps to bring definitive solution to this. On the other hand, we also saw at the UNGA 2023, Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, taking out time to talk about how that countries around the Gulf are now also beginning to be more interested, be more involved in finding peace, finding lasting solution to this problem. The question on the program today is, first, are we talking more than we should be seeing action? Is there sincerity of purpose amongst those who say we want a solution once and for all to the conflicts between these otherwise, some people have said, siblings? But I want to have this conversation on the show today, and you will meet my guest right after this short break. Do stay with us. I'm joined by MAMUD SHEHU, a journalist whose work has cut across reporting, presentation. Of course, he's also an administrator, former Secretary Bauchi State Radio, Director of State Pension Board, amongst several other very critical roles that he has held in this country. I mean, you are a veteran journalist, so if anybody has followed the issue between Israel and Palestine, you should be the one. But incidentally, we are switching roles today, so it's a good thing that I'm the one talking with you, so we can have this discussion very incisively with all of the angles brought into it. Let's talk about a little about the historical perspective, because young people, 20, 25 years, may not really have a handle on how we got to where we are. Some persons probably never heard about how that there had been a long-running conflict between Israel and Palestine until Saturday, for example. So talk to us about how we got to where we are today.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to introduce the issue of background. Whatever you are going to discuss, the foundation of the whole thing must be known. If you can go back to memory lane, you will find that what was the initial thing? Prophet Abraham was the father of Isaac and Ishmael. Isaac gave birth to Israel. That's Jacob. They are the descendants of the present people of Israel are his descendants. Then Ishmael was in Mecca, and he gave birth to Ishmael to the Arab. So from that time, there was that conflict of, as you used to know, family conflict between the two. So this enmity continued till today, up to the time that the Jews were in Misra, that's we call it Egypt now. I think most of us know what happened between Pharaoh and Moses. And finally, God decided to force out the Israelis
from
I'm sorry, the Pharaoh in favor of the Israelis. So they left Egypt. They are wandering. Moses promised to take his people to the promised land, although he didn't tell them to promise, but he died en route. So what happened when he died en route? The struggle continued, and that was the beginning of the crisis or of the conflict between the two. Finally, what I said earlier was that Moses wanted to take them to the promised land, but he couldn't. So from that day to date, to that time, 1947, when the British decided to settle them once again, the Jews had no place to call themselves. But as a resolution of the League of Nations after the World War, it was decided, or it was agreed, that the people of Israel should be settled where they are now. When they came, that place was bought from the League of Nations by the British government. So when they came, they were there as, I don't know what to call them, tenants? But they were finally given the land because
more like settlers.
Settlers, that's the word I want to use. So they were there as settlers, and the Arabs were the majority people, and they were the owners of the land, and they were even working for them. I mean, the Israelis were working for but eventually, because of the craftiness of the Israelis, they were able to overshadow the Arabs. And eventually, when they become powerful, as you are aware, Israelites are everywhere in the world, and they're the most powerful people in the field of economy, education, or whatever you can think of.
Even sciences.
Even sciences. So they were able to dominate the entire place. And when they dominated, they decided to victimize, I don't know whether the word is correct, to persecute the people they met there, that is the Arabs. So what the most serious problem was that the United Nations or the League of Nations then did not treat the issue fairly. Instead of them to grant independence to the two settlements, only Israel was considered. And
go ahead.
Israel was considered. And the Arab Palestinians were put under the coverage or over the government of Israel. And as usual, the two do not see eye to eye. So the conflict continued up to now, up to the time when, in 1973, I don't know whether you were aware.
1973, yes,
During the Camp David Accord, that President Sadat initiated and implemented, that cost him his life. Since that time, we don't know peace in that area. But the question now is, why is it that we have not been able to come into terms or to come to conclusion on how to solve this problem? The fact is that the United Nations resolution, whereby you have Security Council that decide matters, that decide issues, the United Nations Security Council refused to approve or refuse to recognize Palestine as a nation. I think, precisely some years back, an attempt was made to pass
the resolution
through the Security Council, but the veto issue. Once all the countries agree, or if one abstain, then there may be no agreement. So that one failed. Turkey and many other countries were in support, and at least the whole people of the United Nations agreed. The votes in favor of Palestine were higher than the votes not in favor, but simply because of the resolution, of the veto issue, that one could not be resolved. So, as you said earlier, how do we get peace? Whatever you do, let me tell you, let me be, in Hausa we used to say that, let's act like a madman. Whatever you are going to do, if that Security Council of veto power is not amended, there will never be peace in the Middle East.
I'll tell you something. Just at about this time yesterday, the ambassador of the State of Palestine to Nigeria, all right, His Excellency Ambassador Abdullahi Shawesh was here, and we were talking about the same issues around the Middle East, with a special focus on Israel and Palestine. And he did say that the United Nations at this point is overwhelmed, to put it mildly, because he says the United Nations is helpless about this issue, that if the United Nations could resolve this issue, it would have been able to do that long ago. What does that say about the possibility of ever finding peace between Israel and Palestine? Is there a possibility?
As I said earlier, the only possibility of having peace in this area is a situation whereby the United States agrees that
United States or United Nations?
No, United States.
United States.
As a government, realize that there is no justice in the whole arrangement because they are the people holding the S. America. Because they are the people that are known to be strongly behind whatever Israel is doing.
So they are a fundamental influencer in this matter?
Yes, because I read yesterday or today in the newspaper that they sent warships, arms, and a lot of assistance to the Israeli government to fight
Palestine,
the poor Palestinians. If a strong country like America that is always talking about democracy, justice, equity,
rule of law,
rule of law, they are the champions of all these things that we mentioned. If they are acting otherwise, simply because their interests are trampled, then ordinarily one cannot say when there will be peace. Probably, if the Palestinians, as resistant as they are, strong-hearted, courageous as they are, if they continue to fight, maybe, probably, they may be able to. But the possibility of them attaining their independence through the use of force is very slim. They are only using this stone to fight.
But they didn't use stone on Saturday when they sprang those surprise attacks.
They use heavy,
that was sophisticated.
They use heavy, most sophisticated arms. Some people say they got the assistance from Iran, but nobody knows. We are not.
But Iran has already congratulated them about 2 days ago to say this was actually an impressive.
Well, we cannot say because
an impressive outing.
Hamas is predominantly Shia. I think you know this politics
very well. But that seems to be the radical arm, the military arm of the PLO.
Qassam, whatever they call it.
Right.
That is the military wing of the Hamas.
That's right.
And the entire, not the entire, but the majority of people living in Hamas and the leadership itself is Shia. So if they get support, assistance or whatever from Iran, nobody will be supported. But for somebody just like me to start and say, yes, they were aided by Iran, I think I'll be saying what I don't know. But there is high expectation and hope that I'm thinking that yes, they are heavily being assisted. So there are many Shiite organizations in the world like the Hezbollah
that are sympathetic to the Palestinians.
So
that are sympathetic.
They are sympathetic because you have to sympathize.
Because they are at a disadvantage. That's what you're saying. You're saying they are at a disadvantage. Palestinians are at a disadvantage.
Of course they are. Everybody knows that. Palestinians, especially those living in Hamas, even the occupied West Bank, none of them has any bright future. None of them has any bright hope of winning the war.
I want to ask you something. You know, former President Trump of the United States had relocated the U.S., the capital of Israel from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem a couple of years ago. Do you think that worsens the situation between Israel and Palestine?
No, that was only occasional. That was it only aggravated the whole thing.
Okay, made it worse. Did it make it worse? Did it make it
worse? And on the side of the Israelis, what rendered the whole thing hopeless was their recent attack on the Al-Aqsa Mosque. It was an intimidation. It was a provocation. I think that's what I'm saying.
Very well.
It was a provocation. So the Trump's action provoked the Israelis. Is that correct? And at the same time, the attack recent attack on the Al-Aqsa
mosque
was also, the action was provocative. And yet, everybody knows that these things are done deliberately to provoke them so that the actors will be killed. Now that they reacted vehemently, in a way, killing over 700 people initially. That was what provoked Israeli to retaliate.
As of on Sunday, the United Nations Security Council had announced that it was calling immediately an emergency meeting. What do you see? What hope do you see in that kind of meeting? I mean, hope in the sense of finding a quick resolution to this issue, especially the need to urgently de-escalate, because there's so much of escalation now of hostility between both parties. Does that kind of emergency meeting have the potential to help de-escalate hostility between both of them? We
have had many of that meetings before, and no positive result. Whatever we say, the issue lies with the veto power.
The veto.
Once America or any other country in the United Nations, the members of the Security Council has veto power, you cannot predict the outcome of whatever arrangement. Because if the whole meeting vote or agree that yes, this is the way to follow to stop or to de-escalate the if one country says no, there's nothing you can do about it. So the whole arrangement, there is no justice, there is no equity. The only way to stop such acts is to amend the rules of the Security Council.
How possible or otherwise will that be? Because that sounds like something very ambitious for you to say you want an amendment to the Security Council. Because if you recall, at the last UNGA 2023, even African nations, including President Tinubu, our own president, they lent their voice to the call, the very vehement call to say, look, it's time Africa got a permanent seat on that council. Of course, that is yet to happen as we speak here. So when you use that as a basis to do your analysis, what are the chances on a scale of 10, for instance, that...
But how many?
We can have that happen.
Let me ask you a question. How many of the members of the
Security Council
do not have nuclear? How many of them?
Of course, we've also talked about hypocrisy around nuclear possession and so on and so forth.
They call themselves superpower because they have the power, because they have nuclear.
Right.
Among the African countries and other developing nations that that want to be members of the Security Council, how many of them possess a nuclear? None. What is the possibility of them being admitted?
Right.
What is the qualification? What are the criteria? What criteria? What qualifies them to have to be members of the permanent members of the Security Council?
Yeah.
Because of the powers they have. They have nuclear, they have armament, they have everything. But we in Africa and other developing nations, we don't have such. So the possibility of we people being considered for a permanent seat in the in the Security Council is nil. It's only when America and probably Russia agree that such laws should be softened. And it's only then that probably they may consider us being part of the...
Let's talk about the roles of states in Arab Gulf. I mean, there are states like Egypt, like Jordan. You have states like Saudi, for example. What should be their roles now as far as this conflict is concerned? And of course, talking about lasting peace on a final note.
It's unfortunate that those the stakeholders, Egypt, Syria, and other countries around Israel are weakened.
Are they really weak?
Of course, yes. What do you expect Egypt to do? That's number one. And secondly, this issue of faith is boring, is hampering the whole thing. Egypt is primarily a Sunni society. Hamas is generally Shiite, and you know that's hostility between
both of them.
So you can
even within the Arab world.
Even within the Arab world, there's such hostility. What to talk more about when it happens among interface? No Sunni man will be soft to the Shiite. This is an old knowledge that everybody knows. And no Shiite will substitute his own view on the Sunni society. So whenever you bring an issue like this on the two countries, the matter of faith supersedes everything. That's number one. Number two, even in the Syria that are predominantly Shia, there's very little they can do. Now they're under siege, actively supported and covered by Russia. So a person that is psychologically imprisoned, what do you want him to do? He cannot do anything, because whatever he does must reflect the wishes of that person that is aiding him. So the whole thing now depends on where is Russia. That is in case of Syria.
Right.
And when in case of America, where is America? Or in case of Egypt, where is America? If America wants Egypt to participate actively to support Hamas or the Palestinian in its entirety, that will be done. The whole thing hinges on America.
I understand we still have a couple of more minutes, but I think this will be what we wrap up now. Let's stay with these countries within the region. I mean, countries that border Palestine and Israel. All right. In the last couple of years, we've seen Israel gradually, but very steadily, build relations with them, one agreement at a time. Does that help this matter at all? But it will appear that these countries, on account of these accords that they have entered into with Israel, they cannot be hostile to Israel anymore. So how does that help the fates of the Palestinians?
That's the problem of the Arabs. They don't have unity. If it is true that they are united and they are fighting this cause because they see it as a common threat to their existence,
to the region itself,
the region itself, not only Arabs in the world, but to the region, that problem will have been solved a very long time ago. But as I said earlier, the mission of each country is different from the other.
That's right.
So I don't, unless when the Arabs themselves see themselves as brothers having common interest to protect their own region, then they will unite, mobilize their people, and work against Israel, of which I don't think they have the capacity to do. Now, if I tell you one thing, what is the relationship between Egypt, not monarchy, administration, and the Jews? Are you aware? Do you know that Mubarak?
Right. Hosni Mubarak, yes.
We are made to understand his wife was a Jew. I believe you are aware.
Very well. And he himself being an Arab man.
An Arab man. So what do you do in a circumstance like this? What about the king of Saudi Arabia? We are told that his wife, who gave birth to the crown prince, is either an American or a Jew. So that's the conflict. I mean, that is the intricacy.
So you have to be very careful when you deal with those issues.
Because, yes.
I want to thank you so specially, MAMUD SHEHU, a veteran journalist, administrator, and a public affairs commentator, for coming to also share your thoughts on these ongoing conflicts between Israel and Palestine. We hope we'll get to talk about this some more. All right. So that's what we're leaving it, everyone. Thank you for watching. We'll continue our special coverage of the Israel-Palestine conflicts in the days ahead here on Global Television. I'll see you again soon. Bye.